Hey Tola, what's happening, good people? It's your boy Benson Strax, aka the Big Fish, aka Chepula, and I want to say welcome to another episode of TMM. You know how we do our faith, so it goes down, it's always lit. We are always bringing you the most informative and the best people to have in front of this camera. So all I want you guys to do is sit back, strap up, put the remote aside, and let us do our thing. But first, we got a jam-packed show today. But before we get to that, you know where to find us, TMM_ZA. That's our Instagram, Facebook, The Music Mag, and YouTube, The Music Mag. And just like that, we are fam. And we want to say big shout out to Ngoma Wines for sponsoring this episode. So Bafetu, you know what it is today. I've got another very amazing guest. Bafetu is going down. This person is the one guy that can walk to your song and make it go platinum. I'm talking about Duduzane, the one and only. They say he's the only man that can make all the girls in one country. Never mind, let's go on. My friends, we pay to our future president. I call him Mr. Duduzane Zuma. Baba Hambanja.
Benson.
Thank you for coming through.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Short. And then the guys, thank you for coming through.
Yeah, you know, the boys are always around.
Yeah, how's things going?
No, let me just strap in real quick.
strap in, I'll do the rest.
No, I'm doing good. Yeah. I'm chill.
And everything's going well.
Everything's going according to plan. Everything's under control. Don't ever doubt that.
Nah, that's great. That's great. So I want to get straight into it because we've been waiting for this interview. It's been a minute, you know. So from what we picked up, you weren't born in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you were born outside of the country. Can you just explain that to us? Because obviously with us, I didn't even know that until research, you know?
All right, so I was born in Mozambique, in Maputo, many years ago. And it was at a time where there was a lot of movement, there was a lot of political activity, a lot of activists and activism outside of the country. Just trying to get South Africa to a point of being politically liberated. So part of being born outside of the country was part of the missions that some of our parents were put on, and we found ourselves in that part of the world. It was a beautiful beginning for me.
Yeah, and then when do you move down to South Africa?
That would have been early mid-90s, when everyone started coming back from wherever they were, Mozambique. Some were scattered in Europe, South America, Eastern Europe, Angola, Zimbabwe. I mean, I've lived in Zimbabwe as well, in Zambia. So it was at the time when everyone was starting to reintegrate themselves
back into the country.
Into the country, and to push their dream forward, the last mile, as they call it.
Yeah, and as a young Duduzane, you know, from Maputo, coming through this side, what was your initial reaction or a memory that you can have of your first memory of South Africa?
It was, I'll say, high-rise buildings. I mean, we lived in Hillbrow when we got into South Africa at the time.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, Hillbrow at that time, you know, was ahead of its time on the continent when it came to high-rise. So it was definitely the high-rise buildings that stood out, and we didn't stay too far away from what is known as High Point. High Point, which is in the middle of Hillbrow, that communication tower. So that's what stood out for me. You know, just kid looking up and like, okay, interesting.
You
These some big huts.
Some big huts. Because I asked that because you've got a very interesting upbringing, you know, just aside from what we know, but like even from the schooling, you know, you actually first went to school in Maputo, right?
Yes.
It was called the International School, right?
Correct, sir.
Yeah, and then we had a very interesting question from a friend of ours. He's like, he wanted to know, like, when you came down here and you started going to school here, right? It's like, how was that transition for a young you coming from another country to another country, you know?
No, I think, simply put, it was an interesting transition because if you look at a place like Mozambique, for example, the integration was real. You know, it wasn't something that was recent at that time. If you look at the Portuguese setup, the community and the history, it's a very integrated one. I think if you go to most Portuguese-speaking countries globally, you'll find that. And Mozambique was just that. So the issue of non-integration, the issue of racism didn't exist. So coming into the setup here in South Africa, it was, you know, I was an outsider in Mozambique because even though I was the South African kid, or one of the South African kids in the school, and born in Mozambique, I was seen as as a South African.
Yeah.
And then coming into South Africa now, and I still get those shots from time to time.
From time to time.
I'm the foreign kid.
You're the foreign
kid.
kid.
I'm the African kid. So it was interesting just having that hat on as the African kid, finding my way through a system where, it was the languages that I had to learn along the way were not South African languages at the time. It would have been Shona in Zimbabwe. It would have been Portuguese in
a lot of languages.
So it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
Until today, I'm still on a learning curve.
Yeah, and how many languages do you speak? Because it sounds like you've been around. Obviously, you've been around. But
So,
how many languages?
So the strange thing is, I've had to, and once again, it's not me because it wasn't me moving around the continent when I was a kid, but I've had to adjust everywhere that I go to. So it was always making new friends, learning new languages, and as you're finding your way around, boom, you're out, you're somewhere else.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I understand a lot of the languages. Speaking, that's a
whole nother ball game.
That's a whole other ball game.
Yeah. No, that's amazing because like your upbringing is when I did my research, there's a lot that I learned about. Just not just about the country though, but just like as Africa as a whole, But I want to touch on something that I didn't know about till I did research on you, and it's called the Young Pioneers movement that you were part of growing up. Can you just give us the youth that don't know about that, shed a bit more light on the Young Pioneers?
So hopefully, I mean, this is the music mag. It's a music show, so hopefully we're not diverting from the
No,
audience.
we'll get to the mixtape. We'll get to the
and that hot free stuff.
For sure.
The Young Pioneers at that time was something that existed mainly outside of South Africa, and that was specifically from a political movement perspective. The ANC at that time was political school in the sense of it, and it was boys and Girl Scouts. So it was the whole khaki uniform with the scarf and the caps and everything, and every month there'd be some sort of camp. So we get picked up and we'd have political school. We'd be taught about the struggle. We'd be taught about liberation. We'd be taught about people that are helping South Africa on their way to being fully liberated. Different countries, different organizations that exist globally. And you need to understand that at that point we are 4, 5, 6 years old, and then there's an older crop who actually would go on camps to Tanzania. There's a place called Mazimbu, and political schooling would happen there. And all it was just initiating the younger crop of people that are affiliated to the political party at the time, the ANC, on why we're doing this, how we're doing it, and who the people around us are that we work with. And it was a sense of being brought up in this culture of, everyone around you is for the cause. This is the cause, and we're all rallying behind this one cause.
Particular cause. But wasn't that a bit of pressure? Because I think everybody knows that apartheid was not a nice time. The era. Was that not like a bit of pressure? Obviously knowing that your father's fighting for the country at the time. Was that not pressure for you growing up, also being part of the Young Pioneers? I
think at that time, just the if I may say, the beauty of being young is a sense of innocence and ignorance that you have. So as a young person, you don't realize the severity of the situation. People are losing their lives. I always speak about a gentleman that lost his arm in a car bomb, and we were there and we witnessed it. And he's actually one of the top judges in the country today. You don't really understand what's going on because
at that time,
and
you're so young.
In hindsight, when you look back at it, you get it. This is what was happening. So from an age perspective, I think that's why the ignorance. It wasn't a deliberate one. It was just being a young buck. 100% a non-understanding.
No. That's very interesting, but I want to also touch on, like we said, it is the music mag, because I know a couple of people, they're like, hey, what's going on?
What's in there?
What's going on?
Is this political school? What's now?
But when we thought we were going to do an interview that was music based 2 weeks ago, the questions would have been completely different. But I want to go into something that I think a lot of people view from your father, Ubaba Msholozi, you know, he's very, very vocal. Like, you know, how was that growing up? You know, like hearing those songs, you know, in the household and around you. Like, how was that type of music an influence to a young Duduzane, you know?
At that time, that dude was not singing. He was literally on the run. There was no singing in the house. It was one of those things where he'd pop up once every few months.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was good. We didn't understand what was going on. You know, he was away on business, whatever it is, but every time he came back, he had a suitcase full of goodies. So, you know, so it was one of those things where he's out doing his thing, but for the most part, when I started understanding who he was in the broader scheme, and also in relation to a lot of other people, because he wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
You know, there's other people that we grew up under, people that looked after us when he was not there, other elderly figures who were comrades of his. Once you start reading up on stuff, and specifically at that time, the biggest part of the consciousness was videotapes.
Oh yes.
So
definitely.
your beta or your VCR and your videotapes, and literally most of the time this is what we're watching. So you'd watch SACP stuff, you'd watch some of the union stuff at the time, you'd watch the UDF at the time, you know, characters like Alan Busaks, who was a preacher at the time, getting to understand those guys. And over time, I started seeing his face popping up in some of these videos, and that's when I'd realized, hold on, that's my old man.
Yeah,
what is he doing?
Yeah.
And then over time, and he's from the school of not really explaining stuff.
Yeah.
You've got to figure it out for
Yeah,
yourself.
you got to read between the lines.
And piecing it together. So there wasn't much of that. He was did his fatherly thing, and a lot of the stuff that he did, the meetings and whatever it was outside of the family context. So he kept it away from us as much as he could.
So if that's the case, then what did you grow up on? Like, what type of music did you grow up like listening to? Because like you're a very cool, collected character. So sometimes it's very hard to tell, you know, because I'll say it to my people. Like, if I had to say to Duduzane, you probably grew up on some Lil Wayne. Who knows, you know, on some Lil Wayne. But it's just the confidence that you show when you in front of people, you know, and that I think personally comes as well from your upbringing, you know. So I want to know as well, like at the time, what Tumo Kwaito and all those type of movements, like what was your thing? Like, your thing back then?
Let me take on the journey.
Yeah.
So the first bits of music, to me at least, were the struggle songs via the videotapes.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the songs at that time were very sad, somber, because you know people were losing their lives, leaders were incarcerated and whatever else. So it was the well-known struggle songs, the Senze Dinas, and sort of thing. And then I'm introduced to Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Everyone else. You know, it's the 80s. You know,
Yeah.
born in the 80s. 82 to be exact. I'm 40 now. I'll let you boy.
40 years young.
So at that time, Thriller was what I was introduced to. You had the movie that was out, and it was like, okay, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, so that was the first bit of pop culture that I was exposed to music. And that would have been still been in my young days in Mozambique, moving into Zimbabwe, and then ending up in South Africa. Then the Chico Twalas,
the Fassis, yes.
The Yvonne Chalachalas, Kaifas Semenias, the Ladysmith Black Mambazo.
Yes, legends.
Yeah,
legends.
You know, Johnny Clegg was thrown into it. Yo, shout out to him. And then that was, I think, what shaped a lot of my understanding of
music.
What music should be.
Yeah.
There was messaging behind the music at the time. And then from there it moved on to the New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
The MC Hammers, the Vanilla Ices, you know, and started seeing, okay, there's a whole other world. You know, that's now late 80s, early 90s, and then gangster rap came out.
Gangster rap came out.
Yeah, we touched upon some of the older hip hop artists. But, you know, LL Cool J was very, at that time wasn't
Yeah.
you know, when the West Coast came out with the heavy sound.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
that was it. Dog Pound, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre. You know, the NWA stuff I wasn't really into.
Yeah.
I always have the argument of who I prefer.
Yeah.
Tupac or Biggie. And
Or
I would say
Biggie.
Biggie. The reason for that is the mathematical flow.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a good time. It's a good beat. You know, it's a lot of his music was fun. Yeah, he had some of the heavier stuff, but most of his music you listen to, you know, you rock.
You could rock to it, yeah.
You know, it was a time when he was doing his thing, pushing his message, but anger is not much.
Yeah.
I can only have
Yeah.
so much anger. Then, you know, I can't be driving around like I'm going to do a drive.
During the day, yeah, midday, yeah.
And then came the R&B tunes and, you know, the 90s R&B that came out. I think that was for me the golden.
Yeah, it was amazing music.
And then in South Africa, of course, I was introduced to, like everyone else at the time, to Kwaito.
Yeah.
At first, the first bits of Kwaito that I was exposed to was obviously the likes of the Boom Shakas, Abashantes. On the R&B side, as much as people hate to admit it, but Twins was a good name
Yes.
at the time. You know, that was groundbreaking at the time.
Groundbreakings, ahead of its time, yes.
You had the Mosquitoes at that time were coming up. And then on the hip hop side, it was Prophets of the City. Once again, POC were pushing it angle,
Yeah.
and you know they were kicking the message proper,
Proper, delivering it, yeah.
Ishmael, Ray D, and everyone else. And then from there, the music world just went through to a whole other dimension, you know. And I was listening to the Gloria Estefans of this world. I mean, I grew up in a Portuguese influenced country as well, you know. So I had my Latin
Upbringing and feel to the music, yeah.
this type of stuff. And then coming up until now, Lil Wayne, of course, is the funny story is there's friends of mine that used to argue because when the Hot Boys, Lil Wayne and Baby came out, this would have been the late 90s.
90s, yeah.
People were not listening to that sort of hip hop. Everyone was still on the West Coast, East Coast, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the dress code. I enjoyed the sound. I enjoyed the rap stuff. At that time, the South rap would have been what mumble rap was at some point.
Yes.
I don't understand what these guys are saying, but I enjoyed it. So I was messing with Lil Wayne from the beginning.
From the jump.
The whole thing, 100%.
Yeah.
And he's obviously one of the guys that's up there. But the Jay-Z's, the Puff Daddies of this world, those are the guys that really looked up, you know, especially the Jay-Z from the early mid-90s till probably the mid-2000s.
2000s,
Different guy now. Dreadlocks and suits without the shirts. I understand you can do that, but that Reasonable Doubt
album,
Dynasty, Blueprint 1, 2.
Yeah, some good music.
Yeah, Black Album. That's where I was.
So yeah, you seem to have a vast listening experience when it comes to music. I've heard names like King Von here in the background going on, you know. But it's crazy. I want to, because of the fact that you've actually kind of told us how much music you've actually listened to, you know. I want to hear your take on the growth of this industry in South Africa, like the music industry, from obviously then till now. You know, how do you view that? How's the growth been, and so on? What needs to be changed and improved?
No, the growth has been phenomenal. And I think besides the growth, what South African music has done for not just the African, but for the global musical community is amazing. You look at the introduction of different genres over a period of time. Some may have cut it internationally, some may have not, but I mean, if you look at what the guys are doing today, it speaks volumes of where music has come from. I mean, you have people in the early 90s coming up with a new sound. It's Kwaito, it's fun. There's some messaging, you know, thrown into the mix, and there's personalities behind it that are polarizing. Some of them are highly educational and just general talents. We've seen awards being won by the likes of, back then, the Ladysmith Black Mambazos. And then you fast forward now, you have guys doing amazingly on the global circuit, BETs, you know, that sort of thing, Grammy nominations, whatever. And the interesting thing is, what would have been folk/traditional music on the global scene then, you have a highly competitive and contested hip-hop sound today. That's put South Africa on the main stage. And we've seen artists doing very well on the international scene. So the growth of the music and that experience from then till now has been, the trajectory has been, it's been amazing. For the sound, for the technology, for the look and feel, I think it's also come a very long way. Because you know, we've had some friends in the music business, so we still do. We've experienced studios and production and that sort of thing. And by the time the final production is done from the international side, guys will say, look, there's certain sounds missing from an engineering perspective. The pitch may not be right, decibels, whatever it is, and you'll understand that there's some things that South Africans are good at doing, and there's some things that they may not be well versed in. Because if you look at a lot of the musicians out there now, it hasn't been their core, you know, which is a great thing. Learning on the job, I firmly believe in that. So the actual production perspective has been something that people have mastered over a period of time, and guys are mastering that craft to a point where the sound is on par globally with what's happening. So it's important to mention this, because sitting in studio, you'll have guys saying, but hold on one second, that is off. You know, what we may think sounds amazing, some guy sitting in some studio in Sweden or in the UK or in the US will be like, but hold on one second, the basic fundamentals of music production you missed on
these certain areas. Yes.
So I think that gap has been closed over a period of time, and I think that speaks to, and it's testament to the quick learning of where our South African artists are at. And if you look at some of the guys going toe to toe with international artists, you know, I've always had the argument with guys, especially in the hip hop scene, and why I've always stayed away from trying to oversell South African hip hop, because my thing is simple: no one can do American better than Americans, or whatever it is, whether it be the music or whatever. But it seems the guys are
catching up.
They're catching up real quick. As a matter of fact, they've caught up. You know? So it's you look at what's happening now. You listen to the sounds of guys like Casper, obviously is up there, the AKAs, and then guys that are being slept on. You know, guys like Blackie in the system, and there's a whole bunch of other guys. So guys are on another level. Another level.
And they're doing amazing things, you know. But there's a sound for me that I really have a lot of respect for, and it's the amapiano sound, you know. Amapia, you know, it's gone global in a short space of time, you know. A lot of people are actually starting to open up to it, especially like abroad, in terms of like guys getting deals with brands from overseas, you know. And it's an original South African sound, you know. I think Kwaito and Amapiano are actually the two sounds that originate from here. And Gqom, yes. Like the success of Amapiano, watching as a listener and listening and watching the videos and stuff like that. Like, well, what do you think that sound's going to bring for the movement of music in South Africa going forward?
It has already brought it, and why I say that is, you know, we travel, and when we're in different parts of the world, you'll be sitting at an airport lobby or lounge, or sitting at a club in the middle of wherever, UK, US, and somewhere in the Middle East, because there's a big music culture there. And if you look at what's being played, you know, the airtime being shared is either, what's the Latin sound, the Daddy Yankee type sound.
Daddy Yankee. I don't really know much about him.
What's it called? Reggaeton, the reggaeton type.
Okay.
Yeah. So that South American feel now. It's there's a whole bunch. There's a Bad Bunny and all these guys. Then you have, so that's one of the sounds that's definitely occupying the airspace. And then you have the traditional hip hop space.
Yes.
The young guys, whether it's Pooh Shiesty, whether it's I was going to say Tekashi, but if you want to say
no snitches here. No snitches here.
But I mean, the guy that just passed away recently,
Nipsey Hussle.
Nipsey's one of them, but the
Juice
homie,
WRLD?
no, Juice WRLD, yeah, 100%. But why am I forgetting his name, man?
Come, guys.
Yo, what's homies are you always listening to? And I keep forgetting his name. Okay, no, man. Pop Smoke, thank you.
Pop Smoke.
Pop Smoke, Pop Smoke.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of sound occupies the airwaves, and then you'll find there's the, I don't know what the term is now, but Afro beats. I think that's it. Afro beats is probably the most popular sound in the world right now. Whether you're in the clubs, whether you are sitting in a lounge, shisha lounge somewhere in the world, that's up there. And then it's amapiano, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, we're sitting in place, and at times I'll be like, I'm sitting somewhere in the middle of downtown Boulevard in Dubai, and I think maybe am I Sakumzi's here or my Max's? But it's like, it just pops up, and it's like, okay.
And you're in another part of the world.
And it's you won't go out on any given night. You go out, guaranteed you'll hear an amapiano song. Guaranteed. Abroad.
And what's the one song that was probably most shocking to hear while you were abroad at any time?
From South Africa?
Yeah.
Let me answer it this way. I mean, there's the one that went globally viral. I mean, that is Master KG. I mean, that's one thing. That's something else. That's a phenomenal thing on its own. The other one that I've heard that I was surprised to hear would have been, and this was at the early point before it blew up, was the John Cena song.
Oh yes, Show My Josie.
Show My Josie. My apologies, Show My Josie.
Yes.
That's the name I was looking for. But when it first popped up, and I remember, because obviously interesting lyrics. Besides the lyrics, the lyricism, and besides that, she's rapping in a language that most people, if any, are not rapping. You know? So it's not authentic and as much as it may be identifiable, but not understandable to most people. And then someone from Tanzania was like, "Hey, no, she's speaking my language," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I don't know how he understood it, but you know, there was some correlation between the two. I don't know how, but I mean, this is what the gentleman said. So that's the one that definitely popped
stood
up.
out, yeah. And what are you messing with right now? Like, what does Duduzane listen to right now while he's driving around on a weekend, relaxing? What would you be listening to?
The new stuff, I'm probably, what do I be listening to new? I'll break it down into different genres, because I mean, there's a whole host of artists around and down. So if we're talking the pop stuff, I'm listening to the BTSs of this world. Yes, it's K-pop, Korean pop, but we like to think we're students of international music, because that's
the game. Definitely.
And it's interesting why I use BTS is because you need to understand the value that they've brought. Once again, like an amapiano, like a Show My Josie. They've been singing and rapping in the South Korean language, which no one understands, but they've pushed that boundary so far that they've popularized a certain type of dress code, a certain type of look, and there are a lot of people that are actually buying into it if they haven't bought into it. I'm talking about young people, talking about people that are our kids, our daughters, that and nieces that are learning the Korean language. You know, that's how far deep they are in understanding the music. So I always find that interesting on the pop side of things. On the hip hop, you know, I always say to the young bucks, yes, gangster rap was an era in the 90s, and there was a whole lot of craziness going on, but you know, the I don't know where it's at now. We're in from trap. What is the term now?
What is the term, Chad? From trap
what
to...
is it?
It's drill. It's drill or drill.
It's true. And it's I have to keep up with the trends.
Yeah.
I'm not an old man, but I'm not a young man no more. I'm there, and I don't want to lose touch with what's happening now because we got a lot of young dudes around us. There's a lot of killing in these lyrics.
And you know what?
There's a lot of and why I'm saying that is, and we're living in Durban. We're speaking specifically for the Durban area. It's a very interesting time. We can't ignore the numbers that the guys are pushing.
Definitely.
But it's also very dangerous music because a lot, living in a time where there's access to all sorts of hardware out there that is very, very dangerous. Whether it be narcotics, whether it be artillery, whatever it is, and people are starting to live out these lyrics through their idols. The King Vons, the Lil Durks, the NBA young boys and that sort of stuff. And the guys have got some good music out, But at some point, I'm like, okay, this is...
The message as well is very important.
At the end of the day, what is music about?
It's about the message.
It's about messaging. It's about having a good time. And, murder, death, kill cannot be the only message of the day. Every time you tune into the guys, it's the videos, you watch the music videos, it's dangerous music videos. And look, it's that time, that's what's selling. That's a look and feel. I get it, and I appreciate it, and I respect it, because I'm sure people looked at us when we were listening to the gangster rap of that time. What is this about? So that's what I'm listening to, and then locally, I'm listening to. Well, you have the guys that are always at each other's throats.
Usual suspects.
The usual suspects. But you can't deny guys that are doing well. The Caspers, the AKAs. I mean, Ricky Rick passed away. Rest his soul. God rest his soul. But I mean, he had some interesting stuff that he was doing.
Yes.
And we actually had some interesting conversations with him at a time. And some of the stuff that he was doing, I think, was beyond his peers' time. From the fashion perspective, from the music perspective, even from the production perspective. And why I'm saying that is because he had that vision. And the one thing that stood out from him when we had a conversation, just a general business conversation and stuff, and just how he was moving away from music and the music business into production, short films, the advertising space and that sort of stuff. And he got it because he's like, look, I don't want to be the old man in a young man's game. He did the fashion thing where he actually spent his hard-earned money to go and understand what is happening in the world, and to bring it back and give the South African feel to what it is that he was doing. So I listened to his stuff, and he came up amazingly as well. You have the likes of Moonchild. She's got some interesting tracks. She's got her own lane
thing.
But she's got her own thing. But it's working for her, and it's great. I think. And besides that, I always fall back to the 90s. Whether it's Kwaito, whether it's R&B, whether it's hip hop. For me, that's where you'll always find me listening. I'll go back to the Jagged Edges, to the Nellies, to the Fabulouses, to the Fat Joes, Big Puns, the 702s, the Totals, the Missy Elliott's. That's the Ludacris's of that time.
That's a lot of music.
It is what it is. And then there's some great Arabic music out there. I mean, I lived in an Arabic country, and they're also doing interesting things, and just gelling their cultures, traditions, and music with the Western sound, which is quite interesting as well.
That's very interesting, because I want to move into something that broke the internet not so long ago. I don't know what the scenario is. All I saw was you walking with a couple of guys behind you, and the Malining, that song, Big Zulu, right?
Shout out to Big Zulu.
Yeah. Please, can you just tell us? Yeah, and it was definitely a song that kind of like shape-shifted like the understanding of hip hop, because I feel like prior that song, we had a lot of music that was kind of like the same, like. We'd all want to make some sort of a trap song,
Sure.
And Big Zulu went completely off track with that one. He literally just did his own thing. And what was the inspiration behind you posting that video? And because that did go viral and it did help push the song, you know?
Let me put it this way, and this is a true story. And some of the guys that were there are actually here. We were that morning. We were on our way to MUT, Mangosuthu University of Technology. We were invited there to come and meet some people, have some conversations, say one or two words in pushing their dreams, their aspirations. And also it was at a time where there was a lot of political activity on the campus, specifically the one in Umlazi. And we said, okay, let's go through. And at that time, I traveled in from Dubai. So we'd spoken to the student leadership and said, we'll catch you in the morning, see you there at such and such time. And normally the way it works is they'll put out posters and notifications, not just for us, but whoever is coming to visit. Just to say, guys, this is what will be happening on campus. And the feedback they were getting was like, you're talking a verbal cow manure. That's not true. Then the reason for that is this dude is, he doesn't even live here. And we're actually on our way down the building into the parking lot where we're gonna make our way to the university. And it was this gentleman here, Winston. He sees Instagram.
Shout out Winston, guys.
Winston is at Winston Innes.
Yes, sir.
He's a very colorful guy. Check his knees.
We're gonna get Winston on the show, guys.
No doubt. Have to. So he's like, look, let's just get a video out there so at least we don't have to explain ourselves and it can be put out there. We are in Durban and this is what it is. So we're literally in the lift on the way down. Gentleman pulled out his phone, videoed, and then Winston said, look, this is the song we're gonna attach to the video for the reasons that he said. I think the messaging in the song, it's a very clear message on not just enjoying but aspirations and wanting to be somewhere.
Driving yourself
100%. So he said, look, where we're going to, what we're going to be discussing on the campus versus where we're at and us trying to make it clear that we're around. I think this is the soundtrack to what it is that we're trying to do. And he put it together and that's how it started. And initially people were like, what's this?
What's happening?
What's going on? This is childish,
Yeah,
blah,
they
blah,
broke,
blah.
that broke the internet though.
And then the next thing,
And a lot of, sorry about that, a lot of people were not sure when it first came out. They weren't sure. And then a couple of days later, I started seeing people actually doing the challenge themselves. How was that feeling? Because like you say, a lot of people were like, and then when people are actually now doing the challenge themselves, how was that? Like, because that for me would have been like, I told you so type of moment.
No, it's not even that. My thing is simple. I don't live for viral moments. I don't live for likes. I don't live for pats on the back. I'm doing what I need to do. And if there's some positivity out of it, if there's some fun out of it, if there's some recognition for whoever, not just me, cool. If there's some negativity and there's some criticism, that's cool too. I always say, I always take the good with the bad. I like to even it out, and I stay on that average, because it's easy to get caught up in the trappings of everything being nice, and you're chilling out there being, the hot topic, and then when trouble comes your way just from a negativity perspective and whatever it is on the media side, then now you want to be coying away and hiding. And I always say, it is what it is, man. We moved on. We've moved on from that. I'm glad it turned out the way it turned out, especially for my brother Big Zulu. And that's just the way we leave it. We leave it at that. Leave it at that.
No, it was for me it was something that we hadn't seen, like, in the country, like someone who's in your field doing what you do, getting involved like as much as you did there. But I also want to touch on something that's very close to not just myself, but the whole TMM team. Everyone obviously knows.
Shout out to TMM.
Bless.
The music, man. Let's
yes,
go.
Sir.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. You heard it right, Chair. The music. Let's go. We are very involved in trying to change the dynamic of music in our city.
Yeah.
You know, especially for the up and coming guys. You know, I think the mainstream guys, for them, it's kind of they've got this funding behind them and people and teams and so on and so forth. But you know, as someone who's as influential as you are, I think we wouldn't be doing the show justice if we didn't kind of let you know what's happening in the scene. You know, and like with us, our thing is, we're all about the up-and-coming guys, which will obviously be the youth, you know, and there's a whole lot of talent. But the situation is right now in the city is that there's a lot of gatekeeping, you know. So in return, what that does is there's a lot of guys that are slept on, you know. So like for me personally, I feel like, and I've said this plenty of times on the show, I feel like there needs to be initiatives that kind of groom the grassroots levels, and we do it in every other sector, but I just feel like in entertainment there's not enough stuff that helps the young guys come up the grassroots levels. Like for instance, you when I did my research and I watched your interview with Mac G, you were in the UAE and there was I forget his name, but there was a guy that you invited onto the show, yes, and they were talking about
Ahmed bin Sulaim.
Yes, and they were talking about that Freeness Center, you know, like how vital are moves like that for this music industry in our city, you know, like how vital are moves like studios where guys can go and access proper recording, art galleries and so on and so forth. How important is that for this culture?
No, that is the most important thing, because if you're not curating talent, if you're not curating product in the sense of whatever it is, music, films, art, whichever form of art you're in, then it dies off. You need to be promoting it. So the unfortunate thing is we don't have these centers, because everything you need to do in this, specifically in this industry, in this country, is based on a hookup. It's based on if you want to get studio time, it's a very traditional way of doing stuff, and we need to break away from those traditions. Just the way podcasts have broken away from the traditional, whether it be broadcasting format, whether it be a radio show, a TV show, you know, merge the two together and come up with a beautiful concept, and it gives people a platform that ordinarily wouldn't have one. I think that's similar to what needs to be done for the music industry when it comes to actual, you know, I'm not using it as a political term, but means of production. An actual means of production, you need to have these spaces. So why I appreciate certain places elsewhere in the world, you know, they have places where they set up structures, and it's open to the public. You know, it's free. You come, you showcase your talents, you do what needs to be done, and you move. You're out there to perfect your skills, your art, your skill set, your art, to perfect your music. You know, you're given that space and time, and obviously without wasting everyone else's time. Because you need to be serious about what it is that you're doing. For example, there's a place that's on the technology side, as an example, where, and this is at the bottom of Emirates Towers. It's basically a setup on the ground floor of the building where there's different areas that you can go into to research, and you're given free access. Areas that you can use the amenities that are maybe afforded to you there to develop. And this is app-based, this was technology-based, this was virtual reality, augmented reality-based. You'll see some of the latest cutting-edge technologies being showcased there by people that have developed it. And why that is important is it's a one-stop shop. So as you're doing it, you've got people that are further up the ladder that you have access to. You may not know it because you might get there. Benson is a hotshot CEO. You might not even know it, but you know, he's sitting there doing his thing. And the next thing he looks over and it's like, oh, this is what you're busy with, this app. Okay, no, I know someone, I can plug you in. There's a fund that can take you, you know, he's a homie of mine, or whatever it is. And then more importantly, there are funds that are set up for startup, whether it be companies or something. But everything needs a startup. If you're looking at someone and there's a talent that needs to be backed, you need to push that talent. And most times it's not even about the money. It's about a plug-in, it's about a connect, it's about a conversation, whatever it is. And I feel like the music industry in this country, you know, people are just left have been left to their own devices.
Yeah.
You know, and it hasn't been structured. And I think the biggest telltale sign of it is during the lockdown, when there was an issue with artists not being able to earn, because, you know, a lot of artists earn not just from sales of their whatever it is, TV shows, music, actual art pieces, but it's also from physical appearances, from being booked and gigs and that sort of stuff. And online, there's only so much that you can do. But I feel like when it comes to the support that government is supposed to have in place, it's there in name, but it's not there in presence.
Yeah, true.
And you find artists struggling till today. I mean, the guys are traumatized from what happened. You know, I was having a conversation with, and I hope I'm not putting it on blast, but Paul Pops, the comedian.
Yes.
And he actually, what he said made me understand, but hold on, this is a much more serious thing than just an artist or a comedian or someone just waiting and starting it. He said, look, I've been building up my career for the better part of before the lockdown, 2020. For the better part of the past 7 years, and I've gotten to this point. So all the shows that are being booked for locally and internationally has been because I've been on a run.
Working, yeah.
I've been working. There's been exposure. My marketing team has been doing their thing, meeting the right people. You know, whether it's in South Africa, UK, he's doing the comedy festivals in the Laugh Out Loud festivals in Canada. And he said, I've built relationships with people that have backed me, sponsors, partners, whatever it is. And once you stop, it's not an on and off switch. So you're not going to stop, sit for 6-8 months, and then, okay, guys, let's go. Because the game has changed dramatically. The entertainment space has changed from lockdown to what it is now. So now, by the time everyone, and that's not just Simpo, that's everybody, music, comedy, TV, everything, radio, you have to start from scratch. It's new conversations with sponsors. And as you're doing that, there's other talents that are starting from scratch with you, and it's new talents. So now you're playing catch up to the newer, guys, younger, you know. So it's a level of trauma that, unfortunately, our system, not just for the music, but generally, but for this case, and the entertainment space was caught off guard. And as we moved along, and as we see things happening, they are not putting measures in place to deal with these issues. It's a very simple thing to deal with. You have everyone's on the groups, everyone's on the chats, you know everyone's issues because everyone's talking about it. How do we best cushion these people? You know, you can't expect them to, speaking about the entertainers, to protest and shut down the highways because, you know, they're not being paid attention to. It shouldn't be happening. You know, the arts is a reflection of who we are as a society. The music we listen to, the messaging in the music, the TV shows we watch. These are people that we grow up on. These are people that we grow up with, and you have to create a cushioning for that. So it's important to have that system, that setup where you curate this talent and you support it. And I think that's where I'll leave it without being too long-winded to answer your question.
No, that's definitely something I kind of thought you would go towards, because you're definitely about the youth and the community, you know. But I want to touch on something that I'd been seeing a lot on social media, you know, you going to the communities, man, and helping clean up. We haven't seen that in a long time, and if not never, you know. Generally, when people of your stature and your influence go out to these places, it's always like you'll see the person there in a suit, but who gets his spade, do you know what I mean? They're carrying a spade, but we saw you there getting involved, you know, like what was the ideology behind all of that? Like you getting out there, being there with the community the whole day, you know, and doing the thing. What was the idea behind that?
Firstly, shout outs to Abo, Mshengi, Mickey, Nishans out here, and some of the other guys that were part of the cleanup. But I mean, these are family and not just friends to me now. And the reason why I'm saying that, and the ideology is, they're sitting here. And the reason why this is important is it's based on exposure and it's based on knowledge. And I'll speak specifically for Mshengi and Mickey. And I don't know why Mshengi's running away. He knows. Come, Chief.
Come through, Mshengi. Come through.
Say hello.
Come through, gents.
Just
Come
sit down,
through,
sit down,
gents.
sit down, fellas.
Come through,
You're not going to
gents.
speak. You're just going to chill. Don't worry. I know you guys are. I saw him standing. He knew I was going to call him out.
You knew you were going to call him.
I knew I was going to.
What's happening, gents? You guys good? Welcome to the show, TMM. What's happening?
So this is Mshengi. He's been one of the guys that's been riding with us on the cleanup, and this is Mickey as well. And not to take anything away from Mshengi, but this is one of our neighborhood superstar soccer players.
Sir.
Don't look at this dude like this, man.
Sir.
And and why I'm saying this, and it's important for this ideology, is these are the guys that we're riding with. These are the guys that believe in us. These are the guys that have been part of the support structure. And if there's anything that we can do, riding with them and supporting them, we'll definitely do so.
Yes, sir.
So what started off as, it actually last year during the unrest, because we were monitoring some of the stuff and we were, just like everyone else, standing guard and defending the stores and the petrol stations from all the crazy stuff that was happening. We noticed that there's a cleanliness problem, meaning litter and rubbish. I mean, that's a general problem that exists in South Africa, let's just be honest.
Yeah,
you go into the inner cities, you go into most places. Some places are prim and proper, but most places, people live with a habit of littering. We're like, let's look after our own yards. If you can't look after 100%. So it started off with picking up papers, and then spades came in, pitchforks, wheelbarrows. And these guys came on board. We started off during the Christmas and New Year, just before the Christmas, New Year season. These guys are on holiday. Let's just put it. These guys are in high school. They're in high school, may not look like it, but they're in high school.
You guys in high school?
Yeah, 100%.
For real?
Yeah, straight up.
What? That's so shocking. Oh, you guys are taking over the show.
That's straight. Yeah. So the reason why it's important to have them on this red couch is they were instrumental in building that ideology. Because the thing that happens in most places outside of the inner city is people sit back and that's not cool, man. That's not the cool thing to do. You're a clown, you're a punk if you're doing that. And they understood early that, no, that's not the case. We all have to get involved. We've got serious issues of crime, of drugs in our societies. And that stems from people just sitting idle. Kids sitting at parks, street corners. You drive around, this is what the situation is. So we started off, and the ideology behind it was, if we are not able to do what we preach, then we've got no business talking about. I don't want to argue, I've never been a backseat passenger. These guys are not backseat passengers. And a lot of the guys who are sitting over here, they're doers. I think there's a lot of talking that exists in our society and less action. So we started off with the cleanup project, and it wasn't even a cleanup project. It was just a bunch of guys who said, no, let's just make things right in our communities, and because we can't wait for municipality, because everyone likes sending in the complaints and that sort of thing. But let me cut the story short. If we don't push them, they're not able to push us, and these guys have pushed me.
Yes.
Right. So I always say, because people look and say, but you're looking to get famous by cleaning, and I'm like, well, first of all, I've never looked to be famous. I don't care about being famous. And there's a whole lot of other ways to be famous. Not cleaning up someone else's sewer. You know what I'm saying? Literally. True. In the drains. This man was in the drain. I won't tell the story. But he's the first one that said, you know what? No one wants to go in the drain.
I'll go in.
I tried. I couldn't fit into the specific one. He was the first one. And if you look at it, it's proactivity. It's something that I can't stress enough, because now we've had the floods, and one of the biggest issues besides the heavy rains has been poor drainage system.
Yes.
No maintenance, not being cleaned, and completely forgotten about. And fortunately for some of the places that these guys were part of cleaning, we literally saved schools from flooding, roads from washing away, and other houses in the communities from being damaged. And what that says from our side is, guys, let's all put our back into it. We all need to put our shoulder to the wheel. It's easy to sit and say, the country's messed up, this is happening, that is happening, but we're doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
the small things, absolutely, the small things matter. So every morning sun up to sun down.
Yeah.
That's what we did, because that also afforded us the opportunity to understand what's happening in the communities. Can't just go and sit at a community meeting and think you'll understand everything.
You need to
But
be there.
once you're sweeping, you are shoveling, you are cleaning the drains, the gogos will come out, the mamas, people driving by, hey, what's going on? So you get a chance to engage people in the communities. I mean, there's a lot of crazy things going out there, they know. People are getting shot every day. That's where we're at because of whatever it is. And we're able to do this in an environment where people understand, hold on, this is what needs to be done. We need to pull people along on this journey so we can get away from the blame game. We can get away from waiting for people to do stuff from us. Yes, everyone pays rates and taxes, we get that, unfortunately, but if that pile of rubbish is sitting outside your house and you're complaining for 2 weeks and no one comes, that pile of rubbish is going to sit there.
It's going to sit there, it's not moving.
Unless you
do something about it.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where it came from. And I'm happy that these guys could have come on board because they actually taught me something. Yeah. You know, and as much as they think that they on a learning curve, I'm on a learning curve as well. Yeah. What humanitarianism means, what brotherhood means, what trust means. Because they trusted me. They could have been like,
another guy.
You know, we're on holiday, you know what I'm saying? Okay, you're looking, you know, and here we are today. And I found it important for the guys to be here because, you know, life is about exposure. To a lot of people, this may seem like a simple thing. There's a laptop, there's some lights, you know, there's a production team. But I'm not sure they can speak for themselves, but I'm sure they haven't been in this environment before. And it's something that opens up their mind. So it's an ideology from saying, how do we get our people to go from the ground level stuff all the way up the value chain to say, you know what, as much as I can pick up a spade, I can sit in front of a camera, I can understand what's happening behind the scenes of what production is, and it opens up the mind to say, look, I'm not just destined to be in this space, I can be in this space as well. So I think this is what the ideology is.
And that's a very great movement, and I'm actually more shocked now because you guys are here, man. I'm gonna be honest, man. It's amazing that you guys are part of that movement, you know. Well done,
Look
gents,
alive,
you know.
No, cool, thank you very much. I'll get you guys off the camera. I just wanted
but
to
well
introduce
done,
you guys
gents.
to
Well done, gents. Well done. You know, that's the superstars of the futures, the real leaders. You know, that is amazing. That is super amazing. You know, and as well, like, you being a part of the community and working with guys like this, like, for me is something I had never seen before, you know. And this leads me to my next question, you know. So you've done a lot of work. I know that you guys did help donate to one of the varsities. Can you just let our people know what that was about? Because I do really believe that is one of the big sectors in our country that need to be looked at, which is not just your primary school guys, but the guys in the tertiary level who have student loans to pay, you know, they have to work a job and study, you know. Can you just give us a bit more about that idea?
So, okay, so actually one of the guys is here by chance. He's on the phone there, Mr. Msizan. So he's come through, G. come through. Hey, Baba, hurry up, Baba. Let's
the
go.
hot
Come with
seat.
you. So I don't like just talking out of turn. You don't have a mic, we don't expect you to speak, because once these politicians start speaking, they're going to start addressing bombastically. This is one of the gentlemen that got us on the campus. As you can see, his tracksuit speaks for itself. And that's exactly where it was. You know, Student Representative Council member at UKZN. So at the time, there was strikes by the students. This was in 2020. Strikes by the students at UKZN that did the various campuses, and that was purely because of no access to funding and NASFIRST and all that sort of thing. But just in the interest of time, that was purely to say, because there was a lot of destruction to property. So I was still out of the country at that time, and we spoke to each other, got in touch, we had the conversation and said, no, look, we'll come down and we'll try and alleviate the situation. And when we got down, we started interacting with the different students at the different campuses and realized it's a real need, not just here, but countrywide. And we said, look, the least we can do, because we don't want to be those people that just rock up and have a conversation, and leave.
just
And
leave.
at the time, it was a dire situation. Did it solve the education crisis? Of course not. But for that time and that period, what we could do with what we have within our resources, we did so. Free education is something that should have happened, not needs to happen. It's
It
something
shouldn't
that,
be sung out. It
shouldn't
should be
sung out
actually
every
happening.
year, you know. But also students need to understand that you can't be, you know, there's a different way of putting pressure on the system.
Yeah.
You know, protesting and destroying property is definitely not it. In any case, it's not it, because you're destroying not only your futures, but people coming up behind you, their futures. So that was basically to say, guys, let's understand each other. As much as there's a level of impatience, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And this is part of the political journey we're on, to do things differently and to get to a point where we're not going to be standing on podiums and just chanting for the sake of chanting. We want to do things, and I think that was basically saying, look, with the little that we have, this is what we can do.
Yeah,
but we need to understand each other.
And that's for I think anyone, and especially like the people we talk to with every episode, you know, those are people in those varsities, you know, and we just want to say to you guys that to me is hats off to you guys, you know. Great work, you know.
You don't have a microphone, so you're not going to speak. Just wanted to get you in the frame.
we'll get
be
the
here for another 2
interview.
hours.
Sharp,
Thank you, my brother. Sure.
You know, but it's good. It's very amazing to meet people that are actually involved in this, you know, like having them just sit here and now people see them, you know, it's a very vital thing, you know. But before we go, I really want to touch on something before we go that I think is very rare, you know. I heard about a pond situation, a pond in Newlands.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just take us through that, because that was built, right? It wasn't. How can I say? It wasn't there naturally. It was built. What was the idea behind that?
So the idea behind it. So we always have our people. So the person that drove us for that project.
Come, guys.
Where is he? Let's go. Winston. It's Winston, and then Abo was also instrumental in it. Another guy's not here. Just come say what's up.
Come through. Come and say
Don't
what's
act
up.
like you don't like camera. Just come say hello to you. We've got 4
We got
minutes.
Winston
Taking
in
our
the
time.
house, people.
Just no, you're not going to speak. Just say hello to you. So Winston is. Winston's a good brother of mine. I think everyone knows him with his pink LVs. But anyway,
Loving it.
Good, yeah. So those ponds had existed for some time, and they'd been covered up because of lack of maintenance, budget, blah 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 blah. And that's something that we're also going to sort out now with the flooding. Anywhere where there's been river banks and ponds, there's just been destruction, piping and retainer walls. So we're also going to be dealing with that. But what happened is, it's a pond that existed in a park, and you know, it wasn't in use for a long time. And we said, you know what, just to bring back some level of dignity and interaction from the community, and something that they can look forward to going to, because there's outdoor gyms, there's courts where they play netball, basketball, as well as soccer, five-a-side soccer. Let's just create an environment where people can work. So where people can interact. So part of that system was, or part of that idea was just revamping and opening up those ponds, which we did. And then the floods came along and took us backwards. But what I can say is, fortunately for those ponds had held as dams, because the riverbanks were flooding at some points. We built a bridge over that river, and it still stands today, a temporary structure, but it's there. And the basis of it is, people have been complaining. We've approached different government departments to assist, and they've been taking their time and saying, look, if they're not willing to do it, we'll do it ourselves. And that was the basis of it. Didn't expect you to say anything, but just wanted to bring you on frame.
Because people have to see. People have to see the people that are doing the great work. But cool, before we wrap up, I want you to be here before we go, just because of the sneakers. But going into 2024, I think everybody knows we'll see. You obviously the movement that is happening, you know. How important is it going to be for our country to have dams that work and so on and so forth, you know?
Look, I think it's not only dams that work. We need a country that works, right? And we need a breath of fresh air. I think DZ brings in a new perspective, a new practicality, a new urgency, a new zest of life. I mean, we're tired of more of the same. That's just the truth. And I think a lot of what we currently have is not fit for purpose, right? If you look at the leadership, yes, they are our freedom fighters, right? But when they were freedom fighters, they were our age now.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True.
Now we're making them fight a second struggle, an economic one. And they're 80, 70. Guys, we are asking too much of them. We need to ask more of ourselves. So let's get it together, guys. Come on. We shouldn't be imposing the current situation on our current leadership. I think we need to stand up.
Stand up for ourselves
and
as well.
I appreciate DZ for putting his hand up, because it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job to take shots. He could have been living his life abroad, you know, which he was doing the most. You know, and I was one of the guys who went there and said, yo, you got to come back and help us out, because he really epitomizes all we could be.
Yeah, definitely. No, man, I really enjoy hearing stuff like that. But Mr. Duduzane, before we go, just tell us, what's your vision, what's your plan, what's coming up, you know, what can we look forward to? We've seen a lot of action from you, man, and I think for our viewers, the young guys that have ideas and dreams, this is the man to look up to, you know, because you do, man. Like, you don't just speak, you do, you know. So can you just tell us what the people can look forward to going forward?
I think what people should look forward to is transparency, is accountability, which we're missing a lot of. But more importantly, and I say this all the time, is we're taking over everything. And that's not from a sense of it being cool to say so, but why we're saying that is because that's exactly what we need to do. We can't sit back and say, no, we're not in control of whatever it is we're not in control of. We have to be in control of everything. Everything that's happening, from the issues of crime in our streets. So the policing, we need to be in control of that. Our economy, getting people employed, getting people working, opportunities. I always speak about reindustrializing. That's what we're going to do. Understand me clearly, once we are in that seat and once we're in charge, we're going to reindustrialize, and we're going to get this country on a high technology framework. We're going to reintegrate and integrate everything, because it's simple. Our society is not talking to each other as much as our systems and institutions are not talking to each other. And that's why we have these issues. You can't speak about issues of cross-border and illegal immigrants when our South African police are depleted, under-resourced, understaffed. You look at our Home Affairs Department, systems are not up to standard, and they're not talking to the police database, they're not talking to the crime intelligence or the border patrol or SARS. All these things need to be, and they'll say, no, it is integrated, and if it is, why do we have these issues? So it's dealing with these issues, and it's more of, from my side, when it comes to dealing with these issues, it needs to be from the younger crop. It can't be from the older generation. No disrespect to our old guys and old girls. But you know, this is our time. We are fit for purpose. We've got the energy. We understand what it is that we're doing. You know, this is not a fight, because it's a fight you're going to lose anyways, because we're fitter, we're stronger, we're younger. This is what it is, and we're better resource. So, you know, don't ever get it twisted. We respect you, we learn from you, and we love you. That's no doubt. But you need to understand that unless you back us up on this journey, it is going to be a fight, and that's the fight that, you know, you are going to lose. So don't take that fight on. Let's show the world that we are responsible, and let's show the world that Africa is not just a system that exists under patriarchy and elders, but there's young people that are good to go, and we are some of them sitting on this couch. But more importantly, our journey and the plan is to change the mindset of young people. Unless we change our mindset, unless we understand that we all have to work together, regardless of what religious denomination, race, political party, age, whichever community you form a part of, unless we work together, black, white, Indian, colored, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Afrikaans, Zulu. It's not going to work. A vendor, Xhosa, because now we're like, now the ethnic mobilization of the Ngunis. So I know whoever's out there, unless we work together, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You know, this economy cannot be exclusive to some people. It needs to include everyone. So unless we have an inclusive economy where everyone benefits, where everyone can reap the rewards, where everyone can wake up and say, you know what, I'm part of some sort of value chain, some sort of earnings. And we understand not everyone is going to become a billionaire. It's not the way it works. If you're serious enough to get to that level, you'll get there. If you're not, then you're just going to be another number. But let's break down those barriers. Let's give everyone an opportunity to display their talents in whatever sector they're in. Let's give everyone an opportunity to say, you know what, it's a level playing field. That's all we got. Our job is to level the playing field and to make sure that our young people sitting here believe in themselves and are serious about what they do. Because the biggest problem you young folk out there have is you don't take yourself seriously. And everything is, no, but you know, the elders, that needs to stop. In business, you're always looking to the elder. No, this guy's done it. No, leave that. In politics, the same story. It's the elders. No, we have to take advice. Taking advice is one thing, but if they tell you don't do it, you don't do it. And that's why we see the issues in politics as well. What we have and what it is that we're doing is a different story. We always say you do not need permission to do the right thing. If we're doing the right thing, we're not asking anybody. So if you're sitting out there thinking that we're being arrogant or unrealistic, that's fine. See you in 2024.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And 2024 is around the way, ladies and gentlemen, you know. But I want to say to my future president, to my future president.
That means a lot, bro.
Thank you so much for coming through and bringing the people that you brought with you. Winston, my brother, the work is amazing, man. And everyone else that came through to just support us, man. Like, on behalf of the TMM team, I want to say thank you so much for coming through, you know, hanging with us and actually giving us a part of you that we probably won't get in any other interview. Yeah, shots fired.
But before I leave, sorry, I don't want you to cut me out. I have to appreciate you and your team. Thank you very much for your professionalism. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for the Music Mag. And why this is important to me is, as you're speaking off air, a lot of interviews that I have are, I'm on the defense, I'm being attacked. You know? So just an opportunity to have some fun, have some discussions, light-hearted moments. But I appreciate your level of thinking and the guys around you, because there's some on-the-air stuff that people see, there's some off-air stuff that they won't see. But the mindset, the mind frame, the understanding is there. It's not like guys don't understand. Guys know exactly what it is that they're doing. It's just that we, and I speak for all of us, are not being given an opportunity. But that opportunity is not going to come by waiting. We have to go and grab it. So thank you very much for your vote of confidence, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, guys. Like I said, yes, sir.
Yes.
And that's how we're gonna end the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna cut it there. It was a dope one with our future president, Mr. Let's get it!
I got some shit I need to settle off. I got niggas who waited on me, but they still popping off. Never really changed to the same nigga, you doubt it. Now I'm getting money for an exchange in my pockets. You and I know that we ain't got no time to waste. I'm tryna put you back in place. Manifested everything I wanted. I was falling, cause you flawless. I'll be ballin', baby, I'll be ballin'. I can't take you out of reach. I know how you feelin', baby, talk to me. I can give you everything, I'm talking shopping spree. Okay, now back to where we started. I knew I had to make you my target, cause you flawless. I seen some people change on me, but you stay solid. I knew that day you was special the day you walked in. I Close my eyes and then I praise the Lord. Cause everything I got right now is what I pray for. It's crazy. I'm tryna pull up in the coupe and then I hop inside a PJ. They got my music right on replay. I foresaw this shit before my mama gave birth to me. Cause I made sacrifices, now I'm rocking that burgundy. The burgundy dress, burgundy flex. It's a different sex. I see, what on my flex. It's a government check. High key, I'm getting famous. But I'ma do my job and I'm patient. Swear I'm patient. Don't call me if you ain't about the power. I know how it is, cause you salty. You don't know around when I'm just ballin'. I know how you feeling, girl, you salty. I know exactly why you hate me, cause I'm poppin' and you're not by my side. Girl, don't you lie. Claiming that you happy for me, but you burning inside. And I know I can see it right through your eyes. Girl, it's suicide. I can't believe that you still salty. I thought you love to see me ball.